and we are ready to kick off this amazing lunchtime live session.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy being here. And thanks for the patience for the technical glitches. You'll see my alter ego is Zoe. I do love that name. So maybe I can flare my hair a bit and I'll be a Zoe and not a Dr. Debbie right now. So thanks for the patience. So what we want to talk about today is the body-mind connection. So I want to delve a little bit in exactly what it means. Then I want us to look at some cases in between. And then I want to wrap it up at the end to saying, okay, if we have these mind-body connections where there's a blockage, how do we actually help the body to create the flow that it needs to flow and healing can take place? So let's start off with a physical symptom. If we can change our perception of physical symptoms, what it tells us, we will change the way I believe in how we heal. So when we have a physical symptom, if you can understand it's the way that your mind is trying to communicate with you, something is not at ease. And you all know what happens if you don't listen to something, the signal becomes stronger and stronger. So if we're conscious about it in the beginning of paying attention to the physical symptoms, it is also so much easier to heal. So think about this. Imagine you're watching a scary movie. What happens to you? There's physiological changes in your body that happens. Your heart might start beating a bit fast. You might get sweaty palms. You might actually feel, oh, I don't want to watch anything further. And while you're watching the movie, even though nothing is happening to you, in your body, the physiological response is created as if you've just experienced that event. There is a thing called mirror neurons. When you watch someone, your body can feel like it's experiencing itself. Think about another example. When you watch people where they walk over something that's very high, and if you have a fear of heights, what do? You just want to pull that person back because you feel like you're going to fall over. You're feeling your hands and your feet sweating. And this is where the body-mind connection plays a role. So it is very real. So when we look at some of the work that David Hawkins did, he wrote a few books, but one of them that's very powerful is called Power versus Force. And what he looks in his book is when you have certain emotions, there's a charge and a frequency connected to it. Think about it when you're feeling sad. What happens? Your body slouches, you're looking down, your energy is drained. But think about it when you're happy, it's much more freer. There's no force behind this energy. So your emotion carries a certain vibration, and that vibration that goes through your body affects every cell within your body. It affects the way that we heal. So if we can get out from a lower frequency vibration, some examples are fear, anger, shame, and guilt, where we get higher to a level of love and acceptance, we shift something within our body. And again, higher frequency vibrations attract healing more easily. And the way we do it is we have to go from low vibration to higher, having courage. The courage to accept the symptoms that we've got, the emotions, what we've got, to shift to the higher vibration. So I want to give you some examples of symptoms, and I want you to think in your own life, where have you experienced some of this? So think about it. If you were so angry with someone, but you couldn't say a word. Have you ever had a sore throat afterwards? That's the emotion that's just totally blocked there. You could not have expressed yourself at the time, or you felt you couldn't express yourself. I've had many patients that tell me this story about the emotional link to the sore throat. So if we track it back, and because a sore throat is quite acute, you say to them, what happened in the last week? And you'll see something comes up about this emotion of not a voice to express itself. And once you're like, aha, yes, I wanted to tell this person A, B, C, D, fill in the blank spaces with colorful letters. Then once you realize it, you might feel, okay, my throat's a little bit better. You might want to write a letter to that person. Don't give it to them, but get it out of your body. You'll find that your voice will become more soft and you're able to express what you want to express, that the physical symptom does not need to be there anymore. I had a very interesting patient who had a very complicated history. And the initial diagnosis we actually thought was multiple sclerosis. So I want to read for you a very quick paragraph out of the book, The Secret Language of the Body, what the emotions connected to this physical symptom is. Putting other people and commitments first, pushing yourself too hard, overworking, not feeling good enough, rejecting, exhaustion, worry, shame, and guilt. And what came from this conversation, part of in the consultation, was that it was always having to prove herself, have to work hard, have to show independence, but yet worrying about the whole family and everyone else. And when we delved even deeper into the whole history of the family, there was a lot of deep-seated emotional guilt and shame. And I can promise you the shift, once this was realized, and seeing this patient who forgave all the people that did literally crimes against her family, she forgave them, how it shifted her health, where she was basically passing out, couldn't move her limbs, to where it's just, you can see from her face, she is so radiant and she doesn't have any of those symptoms anymore. And her whole life has changed for it, because she realized, what is my body trying to say to me? So we can see symptoms from something quite mild like a sore throat to deep things like multiple sclerosis that's connected to it. So next I want to delve into the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. And in Chinese medicine, there's also a belief that each element is linked to an emotion, and each element controls certain things within the body. And again, you want to treat the element that's out of place to help the body to resolve the problem that's there. So I'm going to give you a very brief summary of the 5 elements so you can get the idea and the concept that I want to explain to you. 5 elements. Throughout the day, the energy is meant to move smoothly from one to the other one. If there's a blockage, problems will start to happen. So we have an element called wood. It is linked to liver, the emotion of anger, unexpressed emotion, irritability, and stress. Wood of this liver moves on to fire, which is next. Fire is to do with anxiety. In Chinese medicine, it's called the Shen and the mind. Fire is linked to the heart. Next one is earth, which is grounding. Then we get metal, which is lung. And then we get kidney, which is our hormones or adrenal glands. So let's take, for example, a person that's very anxious. We'll ask the questions, where did it come from? Because remember, we want to treat the root cause, the reason triggering it all as well. So we found out this person had a very stressful job. Imagine that wood element, much bigger, more wood, more fire. Now fire, we said, is the mind. The person could be anxious, they can't sleep, they feel hotter, they sweaty palms, they feel their heart beating. Too much fire in the body. So what we want to do is we want to treat where it came from, the main emotion of liver, which is the anger to release the next element. You get the adrenal glands, which, as we said, is kidney. Now, the more you exhaust your adrenal glands, the smaller the water element becomes. So that means your fire is going to become bigger. What this means is previous things that was addressed that you could cope with very well for anxiety, suddenly you can't cope with it anymore. It is too much for you because there's this imbalance of the fire and the water going on. So we need to help your adrenal glands become stronger, get the water element to be in balance again, so it can actually tone down that fire element. I hope that makes sense of the 5 elements, how we look at the emotional Chinese medicine chart. So what we want to do that's very important is we want to feel an emotion, because a lot of times we say, no, can't feel it, got to be strong. We're like, no, I'm over it, or whatever. But what you resist will persist. So it's healthier feeling the emotion, acknowledging you're feeling it, and then moving through it, not getting stuck in that emotional state. And this is what we want to be quite conscious, because if we can do that, we are human beings, we are going to have a lot of emotion going on, but we're not staying stuck in one emotion, which is not beneficial for us to be in that state. So what modalities can we do to treat when we feel there's an emotional blockage in our body or we're stuck? There is many things we can do. One of them that's beautiful is homeopathy. Homeopathy works on a frequency. And as we mentioned, the power versus force emotion, if you can connect the right remedy to the right emotion you're experiencing, you can shift that emotion out of the body and help the body deal with it quicker. For example, two of the main remedies dealing with grief. If you have acute grief, just say you've lost someone right now, you can give the remedy called echinacea. That echinacea will help you cope with the immense loss that you're feeling now. But if a person or patient comes to you years later and they have chronic grief, we look at the remedy called nat myrrh, and nat myrrh can help the person deal with that chronic emotions of many years ago. Another nice example is a remedy called staphysagria. And normally when I give patients this remedy, I say, small disclaimer, you might feel suddenly an anger outburst to someone. So please let people know that it's a way your body is trying to heal. And I normally say it's going to first be very subtle. You're going to get upset with the person packing your groceries. Like you're going to be offish to them, even if it's not your nature. Then it's going to be someone a little bit closer to you, and then the closest people to you. So if they know it's part of your healing taking place, they're going to be prepared for it and see it as a good thing. And the main theme for staphysagria is feeling like a victim. And that could be in your workplace, one experience that you had that kept you stuck in that state. So staphysagria, very deep-seated anger and feeling like a victim, it can help release that. In the homeopathic materia medica, they say sometimes divorce will take place because the person who's always just been the victim and said, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. And even though they don't want to, they're going to come to a point where they say, I'm taking my power back and now I want to express myself. And that's why they say it can end up in divorce, because that person's true reflection of who they are, not a victim, but they within themselves and power can come out. Beautiful remedy. So that's homeopathy that can help for the emotional side. And there's many, many remedies. Remember, there's over 3,000 homeopathic remedies that can be used. So as homeopaths, we always try and look for that one minimum remedy, the main remedy that can help the patient as close as possible to release that emotional state, have a match with them. And not only the emotions is going to help be improved upon, but at the same time, the physical symptoms are going to be improved as well. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Bach remedies before. That's another modality that can be used to treat the emotional state. We all know, or I'm sure most of us know, rescue remedy. Now, there's actually 37 remedies in the Bach range available, where rescue remedy contains 5 of them. But there's many other remedies that we can use during the time when we're feeling emotionally not so great. For example, alm is a remedy which we feel we've got this intense need to have responsibility. We feel we have to be responsible for everyone. We might even need to be a perfectionist. And this is creating stress in our lives. So we're going to feel emotionally not at ease. So when you take the remedy of alm, you might have a different perspective and say, what is most important for me? Where do I need to focus on to actually help my life to be in better balance? So it's not all this emotional responsibility that I feel I might have to carry the whole time. Because remember, a lot of times we live our life, it's to do with perception. It might be true for us, but it's not true in reality. So alm and the Bach remedies can give us a better perspective of life. And then how do we deal with life in a better, more balanced way? And the way Bach actually discovered these remedies, which is quite amazing, is he had the intuition when he walked to a certain flower that he nearly could pick up the essence in that flower, what it would treat. And I think that's quite amazing, because we all have within us intuition. But I think what happens as when we're young, we are told not to listen to our second gut, to our gut instinct. And our gut instinct is so important because we have already the answer within us. We try and seek it externally, but if we listen more closer to within us, we're going to realize, but wait a minute, this is the answer, or this is the first step of guiding me where healing can take place in my life. So never underestimate your gut sensation and your gut instinct, because there's a lot to say behind that. And then one of my favorite modalities as well to release deep-seated emotional stuff, or even if you just feel you're a little bit anxious at the time, is something called emotional freedom technique, and it's called tapping. And there's a whole sequence of how you can do it where you tap on very specific points. But the main principle behind it is, firstly, acknowledge what you're feeling. So let's say you're angry. You'll say, even though I'm angry at, and you can say what you're feeling or the person's name. And you can grade it out of 10. I still love and accept myself who I am. So I think acknowledging how we're feeling is exceptionally important. The second way that emotional freedom technique works very well, it's called a pattern interrupter. Now, when we're feeling down, what happens is our eyes tend to look down. And when your eyes look down, you start an internal conversation in your mind. You all know that rabbit hole. You go down that rabbit hole all the way. So when you can interrupt the pattern, you're going to think differently and your body's looking for solutions. In fact, when you're ever feeling down, a tip is to look up and look towards your right side, because you access a different part of your brain that's now looking for solutions and not dwelling on this one thing that you're so fixated on in different ways, but it's the same thing you're thinking over and over down the rabbit hole. So your EFT and your tapping can release that emotional, deep-seated feelings in your body, but also very importantly, your beliefs, because it is your beliefs that drive the way that you do certain things. So we might, for a short period of time, follow a diet so strictly because we want to get better. But after, I don't know what, 10 days, 7 days, you know what, it's too much effort. Or I miss those cookies, or whatever it might be for you. And the belief might be that I don't deserve good health. I need to be unwell, that other people look after me, and that's the only way that I'll get attention and caring from people. Once you realize what that deep-seated belief is, you can shift the belief simply by, again, doing the tapping and creating a new, more beneficial belief for you that's going to help your healing. And that's where affirmations play a role, because remember, we said the body-mind connection. What you think, all your cells in your body is listening to that. So if you're saying in every way, in every day, I'm getting better and better, what are you going to program to your body? Exactly that. Every day, in every way, you're going to get better and better. So listen to the language that you have internally, that you speak to yourself. I think they said it was about 10,000 different words daily we say to ourselves internally. Now, remember, when we say that, we're programming our bodies in a certain way. And where we see the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's a neuroscientist, where he looked at people could change their genes. He literally looked at studies that he could do that happened where they changed the genes expression by the way that their beliefs are. And I want to have a quote here, what he actually says. He says, the moment your perception is changed is the moment in which you rewrite your chemistry in your body. And I think that's fascinating, because it brings us to when we associate ourselves with certain diseases. If people use words, for example, I am diabetic, what are they going to believe? Without being a diabetic, what kind of, who are they? They've associated with being a diabetic, instead of maybe having a perceptive change of saying, I have a blood sugar disorder. It's a subtle shift, but your body interprets it quite differently. So your body-mind connection is part of the language we use, the emotions we feel, the emotions we release, how we experience every day in our beliefs. It is so critical to take all of that into consideration for health and healing to really be on a very deep acting level. And that's me very much in a nutshell on the body-mind connection.
Thank you, Debbie. That was really, really awesome and such an informative talk. I mean, I feel like I want some of those remedies for myself just to experiment and see what I would do. But I can completely resonate with a lot of what you have said. And I think a lot of women can also do that, because sometimes we ignore the messages that our body gives us until we are forced to stop. So can you give us like one or two things we can do on a daily basis so we become a little bit more sensitive and that we start listening to ourselves a little bit more?
So I want to just quickly, which was quite funny, like forced to stop, what you just said. It's so interesting. And I read something and I'm like, damn, that's so true. You know, when you're angry, why does your clothes always get caught on like the door handle or something? Isn't that amazing? It happens when you're really in a good mood. And it's actually the universe that says, hey, just slow down. So I think that's quite funny. Okay, two things that's very effective for us to get in touch with our body and help our healing is breathing. I know it sounds so basic, like, come on, really? But I promise you, the reason breathing is so important, it does a few things. In order for your body to heal, you need enough oxygen. And how we get oxygen is through the breath and getting in oxygen. And the way you want to breathe is using deep diaphragmatic breaths. The way you do it is you keep your chest still and you breathe by your stomach. So as you breathe in, you're going to push your stomach out. So if you want to hold one hand there, the one on over your, just under where your rib cage stop. And as you breathe in, you can see nothing here moves. It's only at the bottom. And there's a few reasons this is why you want to do it this way. Number one is, as soon as you breathe from this part, it's called your accessory breathing muscles, your brain thinks you're in a stress. Because what happens is you use these muscles when you run and you need to create extra oxygen that goes in. The problem is we're sitting so much in front of our computers and our postures, we're already sitting like this, we're breathing incorrectly. So when you do deep diaphragmatic breathing, you fill your lungs up the way it's meant to be from the bottom up. So number one, you're getting the oxygen, you're breathing, your brain thinks you're in a relaxed state. And if you do 7 deep breaths, don't ask me what that magic number is about, you relax the vagus nerve as well. So your vagus nerve sits again just under your rib cage. So when you stress, it becomes very tight. This is when we get symptoms, for example, like irritable bowel syndrome. So when this gets tight, you're going to feel in a state of fight, flight, fright. And if you think again about the power and force book, when you're in stress, things don't flow freely. So you want to get out that state. So breathing. They say if you can get into a habit of breathing at least 4 times an hour, 7 deep breaths, it's going to shift things for you already. So that's the first one. You asked for 2 methods. That is an easy method to do. It is simple to do. It's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. So my point is, I always say to people, explore, see what works for you. I would literally set your timer every 20 minutes and I would give it a go and then say, hey, how did I actually feel today? And there's that beautiful meditation gong that you can do as well. So it's not quite the like, you know, the alarm that says you're going to be late, rather like, da, da, da. Try that. Set the reminder for yourself. The other thing one can do is be more conscious about the way we feel so that you're not suppressing your emotions. And start to look at what your triggers are, because there's certain triggers we all have. You see an email comes in with someone's name. If you know that person triggers you up, okay, now I'm conscious about it. This is the way it's happening. Let me focus on my breathing and see how can I shift that emotion and get back to me being in control of the way that I feel. Catherine Perk wrote a book called Molecules of Emotions, and she speaks exactly about this. She speaks about how our emotional state is fed the whole time because we become addicted to a certain feeling. That feeling might be bad. We might be addicted to feeling angry. So we need to break that cycle. And the way we do it is to become more conscious and understanding what triggers we have. So those are two of my favorite: breathings and see what things trigger us.
Yes, the timing, or setting the timing to do certain lifestyle changes throughout the day, even if you're sitting behind a computer desk the whole day, is very beneficial. So I think everyone can introduce that breathing. For the participants, you can just unmute yourself if you have any questions for Dr. Debbie, or you can type it in the chat box. I see there's a question here for you, Debbie. It says, thank you so much for the informative talk. Does binaural beats heal emotions and illness?
Okay,
Sorry.
so what?
Yeah, it's binaural, sorry.
So what that is where you usually use headphones and you've got two different sounds, and it's trying to put your brain back into a balancing mode. That's how that works. So this is the thing: frequency, which is music, can heal our bodies. In fact, you get some beds that's got healing instruments under it, which you can create a frequency. You can take a tuning fork that's in a certain vibration and frequency, and you can heal the body as well. So I can definitely say, why not? That could be part of what you're doing. Music is a frequency, it can heal. Think about it. If you listen to, or I'm going to take myself for example. If you go into a shop and they play this music that's like rock and roll, but quite like doof, 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 doof. Like, I don't want to shop in that shop. I feel like they just want you to buy and get out of there. So music affects our emotional state very much. So yes, you can definitely use healing music to help your healing ability.
There's another question here. So can you use the 5 elements chart to identify which organ might be under pressure and then find a homeopathic remedy for that specific organ?
So now we're talking about a fusion of modalities, but why not? We can say, for example, the lung element in Chinese medicine, which is linked to metal, which is linked to the emotion of grief, can be linked to exactly that remedy of Natmur and Ignatia. If you are irritable and angry, you might have heard the term, we say you are liverish. So if you liverish, it's liver element in Chinese medicine. The homeopathic remedy in homeopathy, or one of them, is Nux vomica. You can give someone Nux vomica to help that liver element. So I can't see why you can't blend and fuse the two different modalities.
Someone else asked, what element does the thyroid fall under?
So the thyroid, again, is right by your throat. So now let's maybe actually fuse for one moment some of the chakras as well. This is your throat chakra. The thyroid is right there. What you say, what you're not saying. In Chinese element, the main element for the thyroid is liver. And liver is, as we said, part of its unexpressed emotion, stress. And all of that runs through your thyroid. So you definitely want to deal with some liver issues at the same time while you treat the thyroid.
Does anybody want to ask Dr. Debbie a question directly? You can just unmute yourself. So Debbie, if patients want to get hold of you, where can they find you?
Probably the best place is if they go to my website, which is Dr. Debbie, DRDebbie.co.za.
Okay, can you type it in that? Will you be able to type it in that box for them? Or I will send it to them when we're done with this. Are there any other questions? Okay, so that is it then for this week's Lunchtime Live. Thank you so much, Dr. Debbie.
Thank you very much for having me. I know I speak very fast, but I found such an amazing quote, which is relevant to me. And the quote said, if I can sum up what people say in a book in a few sentences, I feel like I have achieved my job. You can see I'm very to the point. And when I saw that, that is me. I don't like the fluff. I want to get to the core root of it all and get to the point of it. So I hope I wasn't too brief for your listeners.
No, you weren't. It was fantastic. Another comment, there's many of them actually, just lots of thank yous and saying that it was fantastic. But this was just to outline that, we're just not physical bodies, understanding chemistry and biochemistry and physiology of the body and just doing a diagnosis and treatment with medicine and ignoring everything else around us is not really going to make us healthy completely. So thank you everyone who joined us, and those who would like to have the recording, please send me an email on info@drhemakalan.com and I will send you the email. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.